Dear Diary, today I decided to try and beat Fallout 4 with only Dogmeat attacking enemies because he is well known to be completely useless and incapable of taking on more than one low-level enemy by himself. This means that I cannot attack enemies in any way, but if another NPC attacks an enemy or an enemy steps onto a trap or mine that I didn't place there, that's fine because it has nothing to do with me. I started by creating my character and noticed an annoying cursor that would not leave. I gave my character a sweet pompadour and a handlebar mustache, named him Dogmeat, cause, well, yeah, and assigned my special points, endurance at 10 to take all the damage that the Commonwealth can throw at me, charisma at 6 to avoid conflict if possible, and agility at 8 to run like the wind when I'm scared. Everything else was at 1 because I ran out of special points. I then saw the bombs drop, ran to the vault, and unfortunately my family made it as well. The usual stuff happened. I got frozen, the worst baby in the world got stolen, and I came out cryostasis in an undefined number of years. Thanks to Mitten Squad's techniques, escaping the vault without attacking any of the bugs was easy. Once all the roaches were safely hidden behind doors, I waited for things to calm down, picked up the Pip-Boy and left the vault. I made a beeline for Red Rocket Station, picked up the belongings of a dead man, and met up with my primary weapon for the foreseeable future. I took him for a walk to meet the neighborhood canines, who were not too kind to him. We then ran to the museum because if he cannot take on a mongrel, I'm sure he will do fine against gun-wielding raiders. The dog got into a fight with some bugs and got his rear handed to him. I entered the museum, got a level up and put that into sneak. Things didn't go too well in the museum because I didn't have any stimpaks to heal myself or revive the dog. Before returning to the vault for the stimpaks, I decided to get the power armor as well because why not? A simple jump from the church roof onto the vertibird that I totally 100% got right on the first chance was all it took. Once I had the power armor, I picked up the fusion core and made my way to the vault. Got the stimpaks, but my armor ran out of power, so I just left it there. I decided to ignore Preston and go towards Covenant since it's an easy quest to get XP early on if you have decent charisma. On the way I traded with Trashcan Carla and some dogs attacked us. Luckily she's better than my dog on account of her having a gun, so it was fine. Trudy was getting hassled by some drug dealers, so I interfered and then promptly hid behind the diner. I then claimed my reward for doing absolutely nothing and got a level up that I put into attack dog. Once I discovered Covenant, I traveled back to Sanctuary to find some clothes that boost charisma. I gutted the place and picked up a book that told me that I'm special. I put that point into intelligence to get the medic perk. I then used another one of Mitten Squad's patented leveling up techniques and built fence posts till I leveled up and got the perk that I hoped would change my fortunes. I left the rest of the fence post building for after I got Idiot Savant. I put on the prettiest dress that the Commonwealth had ever seen, bought some more stimpak from Carla, and went to sort out the Covenant situation. I got Penny to leak some classified information, swam to the compound, and did a pretty sick jump on the way. Manny understood that he should stay out of the way and let the grown-ups talk, so he let me in and I beat him in a race that he didn't even know he was competing in. I watched as a lunatic killed a robot and got Covenant as a settlement. After healing myself at the doctor, I made a run straight for Good Neighbor. The dog died to some raiders along the way, and I watched a man get stabbed when I got to Good Neighbor. While trying to save Nick, I knew the dog would be of no use against a triggerman, so I just ran, which was surprisingly easy. I gave the dog a chance to prove himself against Dino. It didn't work. I actually hoped that Nick would help out, but he just stood there getting shot in the head. So I reloaded an old save and let Dino leave. I talked to Nick and got into a fight with some more triggermen. Nick went down pretty easily, but the dog actually managed to prevail with the help of a few stimpaks. Nick took way too long to open the last door. When he finally opened the door, all hell broke loose. So once again I reloaded an older save and Nick actually managed to open the door without getting everyone to freak out until after I convinced a wannabe gangster to just go home. I spoke to Nick outside the vault and got a level up that I put into luck. Back in Diamond City I told Nick about the happiest day of my life and proceeded to go up a really unsafe elevator. At the top I asked Ascent to give me a set of keys and he obliged. I opened the door, found a cigar and stuck the invisible cigar up my dog's nose. Bought a new hat and then forgot to record myself buying said hat. I decided to do a few random quests without my dog, since he was not going to be much help anyway. I spoke to my dad about getting some paint, picked up some baseball items for a man that was not 100% in the head, and got some plants for the local drug dealer. I then went to find Kellogg and thank him for taking my terrible kid off my hands. I got a barely functional suit of power armor, entered Fort Hagen, and ran so fast that Speedy Gonzalez changed his first name to Moderately Quick. The synths were nice enough to leave when I reached the final room. This is where things went south because once Kellogg attacks, every synth in a 10-mile radius descends upon the room and there's no way that the dog can handle it. I suppose technically with an infinite amount of time and stimpaks, maybe he could. You know, monkeys and typewriters. So I blew them all up and realized that you cannot really beat Fallout 4 with only Dogmeat attacking people. I decided to continue anyway and watched the metallic Hindenburg enter the Commonwealth with entirely peaceful intentions. I spoke to Nick and got a level up that I put into luck once again. Good thing I found Good Neighbor early on, because now I could go and speak to Amari and steal all of her belongings. I then sat in a really comfy chair to watch a movie about a great man's life. I skipped to the end and was on my way to a green paradise. A group of friendly scorpions joined my search party, and I eventually found the big green former human that I was looking for. He asked me to find a cure so that he can drop the words big, green, and former from his description. I agreed to find him the cure even though I had no intention of doing anything of the sort. I got a level up and finally got Idiot Savant. This means that I now got to go back to Sanctuary and build even more fence posts. So after about 700 odd posts, I decided that I had not tortured myself enough and decided to build roughly 200 steel chairs. This gave me 3 more levels, which I promptly put into Idiot Savant and 2 levels of toughness. I ran through a building while searching for an advanced model of the fake humans and prayed to God that dog helps out when I actually find this guy. My prayers were answered when the Corsair decided to only attack me and ignore the dog. Eventually the dog prevailed, and I didn't even have to use a single stimpak on him. I jumped off the building because I had power armor, and fast traveled to Good Neighbor because that was the closest to the railroad HQ. I have never found that church so quickly in my life. I guess fear is great for memory. I got a level up, put it into moving target, and realized that this perk would have been great early on. Anyway, I opened a door that had a really difficult password that had nothing to do with the organization that lives in there. I got the Corsair chip decoded and returned to my green friend. I now had to decide who to side with, at least in the short term. I decided to save Preston, and surprisingly the dog was quite helpful. You need a suit of power armor, or your strength needs to be at least 8 to pull the minigun off the vertibird. And since I'm weaker than my 4-year-old nephew, actually come to think of it, he's pretty strong. Either way, the point is my strength is at 1, so I got the armor and ripped out the gun, even though it might as well have been a cotton ball because I can't really use it. The Deathclaw killed the raiders, some Brotherhood knights killed the Deathclaw, and I just ran around aimlessly. Surprise, surprise, Preston wanted me to help a settlement. I got a level up, put it in Aqua Boy, and went for a swim. On the way some raiders attacked me, but my brothers from a family that I don't belong to helped me out. The settlers wanted me to clear out an old car factory. I tried. Man, I really tried. But the dogs just couldn't handle it. I wasn't really surprised, but I tried anyway. I decided to help Deacon instead. I spoke to my cousin who had some pretty choice words for me. The dog killed some ghouls and Deacon got tag teamed by some dogs before killing them. Inside a super secret tunnel, I found a biometric scanner and a military grade circuit board, which will come in use later on. Deacon got slammed on the floor and decided to take revenge on every synth that comes near him. I hid in a tunnel until Deacon enacted his revenge. Deacon refused to unlock the last door until his bloodlust was satisfied. Once it was satisfied, Deacon gave me a gun that was just as useful to me as the minigun. I then joined the Synth Preservation Society, got a level up that I put into a tag dog, and gave Carrington his favorite toy. It was now time to break my body into tiny pieces and hope that they come together as planned. Des asked me to contact her long-lost friend or something, but I wasn't really listening. I finally arrived at the institute and talked to my son, who was way older than I expected, and he wanted me to go and talk to all of the head honchos at the institute. It was at this point that I decided to juggle the institute and railroad quests, because I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. So I talked to Tom Brady, who was in the closet, and he and his robot friends needed me to find some login credentials. I finally spoke to the aforementioned head honchos and stole some supplies for later. Got a level up and put it into Life Giver. My senior citizen of a son asked me to retrieve one of his favorite fake humans, and a walking computer gave me the login credentials that I so desperately craved. I got trapped in a lab and had to finish a science project. A ghoul killed himself on a mine. I got the credentials and turned down turrets that absolutely annihilated the rest of the ghouls. The downside of this was that a floating disco ball named Molly wanted to kill me now, and she could not be killed by the dog. This whole issue of the dog not being able to kill certain NPCs became really annoying. but more on that in a minute. Finally left the building, but Molly was not done with me. I eventually gave her the slip and put on some new clothes. Tom Brady, or Liam as he is now known, met me in his closet. I sat in a chair for about 24 hours, and my new robot friend needed me to kill some guards. This was a problem because Dogmeat cannot come down to the Institute. This did not stop me though, because I picked one of the guards' pockets, and they all decided to attack me. The worker robots joined in and eventually prevailed on account of them being immortal. Now, both the railroad and the Institute questlines converged temporarily, and I set off to find the pirate's paradise. I spoke to a Matrix cosplayer, ran in, and got nuked. A lot. Finally I made it in, and turned off the fake human. His former gang members now seemed determined to shoot him and nobody else. Neo finally killed them. I jumped in the water and then proceeded to shut off more fake humans, since I was really getting a knack for it. I attended a board meeting and found out that my senile son was dying, so he made me king of the eggheads. I then had to help one of the head honchos find a science thing, so I ran around as usual and found the gizmo. Then came the part that I've been dreading for a really long time. I had to defeat a sentry, a protectron, and 2 assaultrons before I could leave this building. I used synth relay grenades because I decided that it wasn't really cheating, because the grenades themselves do no damage whatsoever. Either way, they didn't help, so it doesn't matter. I just had to wait for a really long time. It took over an hour of just standing there in the room and switching the door controls to keep clearing my rads. This was probably one of the most frustrating parts of the playthrough. I might actually upload all of the footage that I have of it if you guys are interested. But either way, eventually Ali managed to kill all of them. I ignored this whole battle royale that was going on and went back to the Institute, where Ali actually gave me all the credit, which is fair because, I had to put up with her inability to kill a few robots. I got to level up and put it into toughness. I then had to strong arm an even more senile man than my son. I got attacked by some gunners on the way, but the robots at Grey Garden did not take too kindly to that and wiped them all out for me. The old man offered some resistance, but nothing that my red dress couldn't handle. Then came the fun part, where I recorded a message to spell the doom of the people above ground. I messed with some dials and started the reactor to ensure the survival of everyone that actually matters. I then had to decide whether to side with the Synth Preservation Society or the eggheads at the Institute. I tried the synth lovers first. There was no way it was possible because it requires you to kill an entire church full of Brotherhood Knights, and this was something that the dog just couldn't do in a million years. So I decided to kill all of the people at the railroad, and Dog actually managed to attack Desdemona pretty well, but she just can't be killed by the dog. For some reason, I guess you have to pull the trigger yourself. This kind of put me in a tough spot because the railroad, the Institute, and the Minutemen were not really an option because the dog just couldn't do it by himself. The brother would require me to kill a behemoth, and that's not gonna happen. The dog can't do that for 100%. That's not gonna happen. If you thought I would let a few deluded synth lovers stand in my way after the whole situation at Mass Fusion, you're sorely mistaken because I killed every last one of them. And we already established with Kellogg, Dog can't finish the game by himself. I then spoke to my son, since he's still alive unfortunately. I mentally prepared myself for the last part of this run, and relayed to kill the Brotherhood. I destroyed the generators since they're not really enemies or NPCs, and stood around like a piece of furniture while the mobile virus convinced Liberty Prime to turn on his handlers. I got a final look at what the last 3 days of my life concluded in, and spoke to my son who finally died. And beat Fallout 4 with only Dogmeat attacking enemies. Not really. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it because I sure didn't. Leave me some suggestions in the comments for future Can You Beat challenges so that I can keep torturing myself. As usual, I'm gonna leave this off right here and see you guys next time.